Good afternoon to everyone. My esteemed speakers here who will make the job easier. I am very happy that there are 6 of us and they are all from different sectors. They will be presenting on different themes, I think, and that will make the job much easier and very enriching for the audiences. So first of all, I welcome you all once again to the first technical session. I'll just give you some highlights, because then they are there. We all know that over the last 7 years, the investment in renewable energy has been more than in fossil fuels. In 2015 was the year when investment in fossil fuel was more. And since then, our investment in renewable has taken over. If we have to reach net zero by 2050, the various agencies, from IREDA, he is there, maybe they will tell you. The investment that will be required, they had worked out is around $4 trillion per year. Today, we are investing around $1.7 trillion in renewable and maybe around $1 trillion in fossil fuel technologies. So we have $2-3 trillion available with us, which will shift from fossil fuel, will shift to this. Because earlier, I very clearly remember in 2010, 9-10, when the target of 20,000 was given and then it was enhanced to 1 lakh. Every time the question was, where is the money in India? And we have seen how we have come so far. Now, if you look at the dearth of funds, we have multilateral development banks. Representative from World Bank is there, Surbi is here. We have ADB, and then we have bilateral banks, large banks, JICA, AFD, KFW, who are there to finance. Over and above that, we have around $100 trillion sitting with global pension funds, global insurance, and sovereign wealth funds. A rough breakup, $57 trillion is with global pension funds, and maybe sovereign wealth funds have more than $10 trillion. These institution investors, of course, work on country risk and sectoral risks and other things. And then you have our development agencies who come out with new products, and they are the first one to finance the sector which needs funding, because they will not fund the regular projects that our development institutions, local institutions can fund. So their support has been very critical. I remember to start a small hydro, we got the first financing when I was in IREDA from World Bank. Similarly, we got funding from ADB to start on, they were after us for, at that time, rooftop, which was not viable, but things like that. And then you come out with bilateral agencies like KFW. We first time worked out on first risk guarantee fund. They gave us some $20 million and they said, this much is free. Then we said, okay, can we utilize it for de-risking? And then the product that we could make out was that this is a first loss guarantee fund. So that is how things develop. Sometimes World Bank has worked with us. They said, you have to de-risk how you finance state sector. You create a guarantee fund. And then that guarantee fund will reduce the bids, they will increase the confidence of the developers and reduce this. So this was the scenario. But today, the developers are in a much better position because the sector has matured, the technology has matured. There is no dearth of funding available to them in the existing sectors like wind and solar. They have multitude of financial institutions, banks are lending them. Large institutions which are not lending like PFC and REC and SIDBI, they are now financing renewable energy. So the banks are there, they are there, and of course they are also getting lines of credit from multilateral development agencies. So this is, and even if you look at the target that is set by Government of India, 500 gigawatt, so another 300 gigawatt has to come in next 7-8 years. that makes you around $20 to $25 billion to come for renewable energy, which would not be a very difficult task considering all these big institutions are there to finance. We would also be requiring funds for domestic manufacturing, because we know that transition is not possible if manufacturing happens in India. And for this PLI scheme, government has earmarked some 24,000 for renewables, some 19,000 for EV batteries. So we will require additional funds for manufacturing, but with this, the manufacturing becomes attractive. There was a stage when people came to us for loan for cell manufacturing. We refused because we thought they will not be able to compete, because the policies were such, developers would be importing more from outside. So today, the situation has changed. So even manufacturing is viable. There has also been considerable decline in cost of module cells, the project itself, right from 15 CR to now it is 3.5 to 4 CR. So it has become more competitive, viable. So it becomes much easier for lenders to finance it and for off-taker to take that power. So these are some of the changes that have happened in the sector. Government has also relaxed rules for external commercial borrowings and made ECB much easier. Earlier there were restrictions. ECB, everybody was not able to use, for it was not available for working capital. So that is there. 100% FDI, of course, has been permitted right from the beginning in this thing. You have also approved framework for sovereign green bonds. This will help in mobilizing resources for public sector projects. So that will also provide additional source of financing. Now, another important thing is that startups and ecosystem has grown over in last 7-8 years, and we require funding for that. Organizations like SIDBI is there. I think he will speak on that. And they are funding, maybe IREDA is funding, though it is difficult because at times they don't have any rating. So I would like Mr. Sivasachi, Mr. Majumdar to speak on that. How do they, and this is difficult, but then that ecosystem has grown, and I had worked with quite a few of startups. They are doing excellent job. And they are viable also. They are coming out with new business models. Well, with increasing investment in RE sector and perceived risk reducing, and regulations and policies are constantly, at times when we go out, they say you should have constant policy, but then we require, in an evolving economy, we do require tweaking of policies. That keeps happening. And I think it is good because generally the government is trying to make it more favorable. It might harm some of the players, but generally it is there. So I am very happy. I am asked to chair this panel of distinguished speakers, and I'll stop here and request, my first request would be to Ms. Dipali Khanna, because she has to leave, and I'll request her for her presentation. Welcome, Mrs. Dipali Khanna. Please give her a big round of applause to her.